Welcome to this press conference live streamed from here in Granby Ranch, Colorado. My name is Andy Worth, and if you're on the East Coast, good evening. If you're here in the Rockies, good afternoon. We're just really glad to have you here with us with this, we think to be very exciting announcement. Seated to my left is the legendary ski racer BODE Miller. I'm proud to say good friend of mine and business partner. And today's announcement relates to a press release that was sent out about an hour ago, and we're really proud to announce the BODE Miller Ski Academy Foundation announcing its first site here in Granby Ranch, Colorado. BODE and I and others have been working on this for quite a while, and we're also joined as another founder to his left, Sam Fairchild, and we're just really excited to bring you today's presentation, some details on this. And it's been a long time coming. We're really glad to have you with us today to cover this. To my right is the venerated architect Don RUGGLES MABE out of Denver, Colorado. We'll hear more on him in a few moments. But before we get going, also we won't turn the cameras to the audience, but I also want to take note of a few folks, thankfully that have joined us from the town of Granby, and that includes Ted Cherry, the town manager, Josh Hardy, the town mayor, excuse me, and then Lauren Huber from Granby Destination. Or no, it's Destination Granby. There you go, got it. So thanks you guys for joining us. We're looking forward to working with you guys as we advance on this announcement. So the other exciting things going on, of the many things going on here in Granby that are exciting, we think the World Pro Ski Tour coming to this resort is one of the biggest events ever to come to this area, I believe. And so from World Pro Ski Tour, we have John Franklin. John, thanks again for bringing this great, prestigious event to Granby. And it fits right into not only the investments that we've made in the West Mountain here at Granby Ranch, but also today's announcement on the Academy. Things tend to not happen by accident. Certainly today's announcement falls in that category. Without going any further, this concept, the vision, really originates from BODE Miller. There's a lot to this, and it actually originates from what could only be called a passion, moments and places of passion, experience and past, and from the heart. And so we'll talk about this in a little bit, but we all have this shared vision and shared passion to welcome young skiers into the sport, have them have a great opportunity to be competitive skiers, but also receive a great education, regardless of their means. And so with that, we had begun conversations on this years ago and advanced it to this announcement today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to legendary ski racer BODE Miller, the winningest male U.S. alpine ski racer, a great friend, and a really great dad and husband, BODE Miller. BODE?
All right. Thanks all you guys for coming and all of you joining us from wherever you're at, joining us. I guess, for me, this is kind of the culmination, even though it's strange to say because it's just the very beginning. It's been a really long process, something that started as far back as my senior year at Carabasset Valley. I was scholarshiped into Carabasset and wouldn't have been able to afford to go if not for very generous people in my small town of Franconia in Easton, New Hampshire. And that combined with my experience at my family's tennis camp, Tamarack, where I spent my entire childhood, kind of shaped me into who I was. And when there was the foundation for becoming successful on the World Cup circuit, but also just kind of the sort of foundation for being a human, being a good, being capable of understanding other people and, managing life. And I felt like we needed to reset the bar. There's no knock against the academies. I think they're fantastic. CVA provided me with an amazing opportunity. There's a number of great academies across the country and boarding schools, but it's really hard for them to evolve and change. They're just inherently somewhat stagnant. And I think we have an opportunity now to sort of reset that bar using modern technology, modern thought processes around education, and around the process of developing athletes, around the process of developing character and grit, and the admirable human characteristics that as parents we'd all love to see our kids get more of, but that you just don't seem to get enough of in a public school or in the natural environments, at least not that I find my kids getting enough of in the natural environments they're in. So this has been, you know, it was a dream of mine from that long ago, which I guess I'm 44 now. We're coming up on 25, 26, 27 years. And I'm really excited to be able to announce today that we're hitting the ground, you know, moving. It takes a lot of time, and honestly, at different times, I don't know that we were really prepared to do it correctly. I think we would have just been redoing what other foundations, academies, educational institutions had done in the past. Now, combining with Don, really starting from raw ground that we've been generously allowed to use here at Granby, and starting from that raw position and building the foundation exactly how we think it should be done. And I'm sure we'll have some little stumbles here and there, but the goal here is to leave a legacy for kids and for the next generation, and hopefully impact the existing institutions out there and help them have a template of how to change, how to evolve into something better. And like I said, something that I think all of us up here are really proud to be a part of, and excited to share it with you guys today. It's been a long journey, and like I said, it's a little bit the culmination, even though it's just the start, which is kind of fitting, I guess, for me.
You want to talk a little bit about Big Sky, Montana?
Yeah, this as some of you guys know, I was able to extricate myself from Southern California, thanks somewhat to COVID, but and move my family up to Big Sky in Spanish Peaks, and that was it was a bunch of different reasons why that kind of was possible, but it also sort of reinvigorated me about the importance of this mission of getting people into environments around the mountains, around the outdoors, around nature and activities. And not that there's not nature in Southern California, it just seems like a different kind of nature. So the mountains are something special to me, and even if you are a flatty and like the desert or the flatlands, I would encourage everybody to spend some time in the mountains, because it just does something to your mind, your perspective, and it breeds humility. So when I was up in Big Sky, we actually, we restarted the concept. Andy joined, which he's a getter-doner. I'm kind of a big ideas dreamer, and so combined together, we make a good team. And we advanced really far down the road of starting the academy in Big Sky, and through just various challenges, the speed of development up there and everything, it kind of just stalled. But we are still really optimistic that we're going to be able to do something up there. Potentially also on the East Coast, in New York, where there's a couple really good opportunities at these somewhat smaller resorts. Big Sky would be by far the biggest spot to have an academy, but I think it is really important to state that I don't see any problem with smaller. I mean, I think it's in the press release that a lot of the best skiers and best racers that I've seen and that I've competed against came from tiny little out of the way resorts that were just really good community, really good support, really authentic enjoyment of the outdoors and of athletics. And that tends to breed really good competitors and really enthusiastic kids. So I'm really excited to be able to hopefully have this be our launching point, and then roll into Big Sky, build something up there within the next couple of years, and then hopefully the East Coast too. And as I said, we don't see ourselves as against or competitive with any other academies. We actually are basically open book. We're not hiding anything. We want everybody to hopefully take any lessons they can learn from either our successes or failures and make their programs better. Because I have 7 kids that I'm going to be putting through school at some point. I'm hoping that this can hopefully impact their experience and maybe make it better.
Awesome. Little girl's 4 weeks old?
Almost 3.
3 weeks old. He joins us with a 3-week-old beautiful little girl today. So thanks to Morgan for letting you out to join us. Allow me to cover some basics, particularly for those who may not have the press release. As BODE alluded to, the location of the academy, as it's currently contemplated, is on a 5 to 6 acre parcel of land that actually we're here at the base lodge of the Granby Ranch, Colorado, and it's immediately to the west of this building. It is at the very base of the mountain, and I mentioned earlier the development of the West Mountain competition training venue this past summer has included almost $4 million in capital investment on snow guns, snow cats, and more, which has enabled us to host this great prestigious event, the World Pro Ski Tour. So in terms of developing out that venue, the location of it here adjacent to the base of the mountain, right now we're contemplating 125 boarding students and being able to scale upwards of 40 to 50 day students, non-boarding students. That brings us to current math in the neighborhood of 58,000 square feet. More on that down the line. I wanted to make sure, so it's not going to be a small facility, but I think you'll hear and see more in a moment that it's going to be potentially one of the more iconic facilities, buildings in certainly Middle Park, Colorado, Grand County. That designation is something that I think maybe longtime locals get to make and others, but I think with the work of Don Ruggles, it will be. What is central to note before I advance here, the athletic development programs will be, I think, irrefutably among the best, most contemporary, cutting-edge programs. And it may not surprise you to know that the gentleman to my left has still very engaged contacts in terms of those programs, those companies, those folks that aid in developing that. And we will have, as part of this, the most advanced development, athletic development programs and facilities. The other element are the academics. We're looking at developing these programs, this academy here and in Big Sky and elsewhere, with really one of the most venerated, respected programs in America, the YPA. And BODE will talk about that in a second. It has a relationship, if you will, a genealogy that ties back to the Dwight schools in New York City, which are globally so very well known. Summary of that is very straight up. World-class, cutting-edge, contemporary, constantly evolving athletic development programs, coupled with rigorous, world-class, highest possible standards on academics in a facility you'll hear more about in a second. This is not just your average academy. It's going to be something, it's a new breed of academy for these reasons and more. And I emphasize what BODE said. The current academies across North America are outstanding. We do see this as being something different. I think the last element that I'd hit on before I turn it over is in the press release and other information we've talked about the scholarshiping. So BODE referred to this earlier, and the support that the community in his neck of the woods provided allowed him to go to Burke Mountain Academy. CVA, sorry. CVA.
Throw Burke a little promo too.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry about, but that support through scholarshiping to that great school allowed him similar, in a different era, similar things, athletic development programs and great academics. In our family, my son Jace, my business partner here at Granby Ranch and son, we were benefited by a scholarship that was provided to us when he was a ski racer to the Whiteman School. And so he and I, upon retiring and hanging out and having too many conversations over either a Coors banquet beer or a cup of coffee, would talk about how deeply, kind of deep current, profoundly, we were thankful for those opportunities provided, in this case to him, and in my case to our family. Because of the origination of everything we've done and what's fed into the development of the business plan with this academy is going to, straight out of the gate, is going to be able to scholarship at least 25 students, because we don't want anybody that has interest to either ski and or learn to miss that opportunity. So we've baked that into the business plan and developed that as part of this. And it's really an expression of really this heartfelt appreciation for what's taken place in the past. Lastly, the disciplines that we're going to be working with here. First, of course, maybe not surprisingly, alpine ski racing. Secondly, freestyle, particularly bumps. We're going to have a homologated bumps course here, working with Chris Seaman just down the road in Winter Park. He's a legendary freestyle skier and also just kind of King Daddy Lizard of cutting courses and the like. And so we're going to have an outstanding freestyle program. Thirdly, Nordic skiing. As you probably all know, here in Grand County, Colorado, some of the best Nordic skiing anywhere in the Rockies, if not the West. And so we anticipate having, developing great Nordic ski programs. And then something that's actually fairly new, but to an academy concept, but not certainly new to those of us anywhere near Winter Park, is working with the National Sports Center down in Winter Park, is an anchor tenant, an anchor partner of this, along with Roy Tuscany and Alana Nichols, his fiancée. We're going to be putting in adaptive skiing into our academy. And we have reason to believe this is the first, this kind of convergence of young people who want a great education, and their athletic development includes working from a sit ski or with outriggers. And quite frankly, if it wasn't for the National Center being just down the road, we're going to be leaning on them very heavily, but we wouldn't be able to take this on. So we saw, BODE and I saw this as quite fortuitous. And important for you, our friends at Granby, to know that that came to me on a Saturday afternoon when I was at the Granby Ace hardware store. Like a meteor out of the sky, called him, got him excited, and this all converges into something we think is going to be very special. So those are the 4 disciplines at hand, and just thrilled. Moving on, there's a gentleman, the gentleman to my right, Don Ruggles, works with Justin and the team at RUGGLES MABE. I mentioned the word respected, venerated, renowned. He's literally, and this is not intended to be a book tour, he's literally written the book on neuroscience and design. He's a remarkable gentleman that very good fortune had our paths converge late summer, I think it was, Don. Yeah. And BODE was actually familiar with his work, and we both, once again, got real excited about this opportunity to work with this respected gentleman who's done some remarkable commercial and residential buildings in the past, but literally really special influences of light design that are based on the science of architecture as much as anything. So with that, I want to turn it over to Don Ruggles, and Don, just can't thank you enough for partnering with us on this.
Thank you. Really honored to be here today. I'll tell you, I was sitting in my office just a few months ago, and the phone rang, and it was like a meteor came in through the phone. It was Andy, and then shortly thereafter, after speaking a few minutes, then BODE joined in on a conference call. And the energy and passion for this idea, literally coming through the phone receiver, was just absolutely irrepressible. And as an architect, I think what we look for is passion and emotion and commitment. Doesn't matter whether it's a house project or a retail project or multifamily, there has to be, emotion and commitment behind a project to make it truly timeless and iconic and successful. And from moment one, talking with Andy and BODE, that was coming through loud and clear. Now, our charge as architects is to respect that, to garner that energy and convert it into a building that reflects back, mirrors back all of those amazing qualities. So it's nice of Andy to mention my book. I have researched neuroscience now for the past 15 years and how it applies to architecture and what it means to how we intuit emotion in a building and what are the important components of a building. And that intuition is actually known as subliminal neurologic processing. And without going into too much science right now, we've used in this building that we're showing here in these various boards patterns that human beings intuitively understand. And when you intuitively understand something, then your brain relaxes and it processes it efficiently. And that efficient processing leads to pleasure. And pleasure leads to a beauty reaction. And those are all goals that we're seeking as architects to engender into our architecture. But additionally, that science will be woven into the patterns of the building to support rehabilitation and learning. And that's where the academic portion comes in. Thirdly, we're trying to create a barrier-free structure here where the students can come, be boarded, get down and out of the building and onto the ski slope easily, whether it's adaptive or freestyle or Nordic or alpine. All disciplines barrier-free, in and out. This is a ski-in, ski-out facility. And the board that's here just on the left shows the alleyway between the main classroom and retail building, and then the dorm building. And that's where you ski into and disembark and go straight into the locker room and then unload your equipment and then onto the elevator and up to your dorm room. So the whole barrier-free concept is an important integral component of the design of this structure. The site we have is inspired. Now, oftentimes you look at a steep site like that and you think, oh my gosh, there's a whole series of problems here, and how are we going to overcome this? That slope actually generates some of the most interesting tension and uniqueness in the building. A sense of curiosity and wonder and awe is going to be woven into this structure. So understandability and pleasure and relaxed neurological processing is important, but also curiosity and awe. And those two things working together is what creates a learning and rehabilitative environment. And that's the goal that we're working towards here as architects, not just to respect Andy and BODE's vision, but to take it a step up and really support it in a way that I think will be internationally renowned facility. So we have a short fly around animation that we're going to show you here, and I don't know if Tori is perhaps, so here we are approaching the structure from the southwest. So this is the ski-in approach, approaching into the alleyway between the two structures. You can see the bridges that link the structures together. So that we're calling the alley. Then here we're moving back out again to the southwest, and you can see the various retaining walls that are helping to establish the different levels. Here we're coming from the southeast, so approaching from the ski slope onto the arched level is a retail level. The next level up is the dining level. Here we're going to move around from the southeast to the east side, and then we're showing a bit of the north side as well, which is the arrival and also departure side for the automobiles. Here we're moving through the auto court and down through the arrival procession into the building, under the porte cochere, through the breezeway, and to the front door. Now we're up on the high level, which is the rehab level, which is going to be the really spiritual part of the building, and with the strong decks that look out onto the ski slope. And that room will be filled with sunlight and a unique quality that will inspire all the athletes that are going to come and participate in the programs that are going to be so unique for this facility. So we're incredibly honored to be part of this. This has been a 52+ year journey for me to be sitting at this table with research and commitment to Colorado architecture. And I will say the style of this building is a blend, and this is something that BODE had mentioned early on, a Rocky Mountain architectural style, and then also Tyrolean and Scandinavian, which is part of our Colorado history. And then finally, some East Coast architecture thrown in as well to respect BODE's history. So we're really, really honored to be part of this. We think it's going to be a really remarkable facility because of the inspired leadership that Andy and BODE and the entire team is providing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I just briefly want to speak to the first meeting after the conference call with Don, and we were excited, and I flew down to Denver and got into his office, and we kind of sat there waiting for people to get on Zoom, and then started talking, and he said, okay, you know, I need to know, like, what are the priorities? Like, what can I do? What's the goal here? And the first thing that I said was, you know, it may sound a little bit out of left field. At that time, I didn't know about Don's book. I'd researched, you know, bioarchitecture and the concepts of shaping and how it affects neuroscience and your whole thought process and your hormones and everything else over a long time. But wasn't aware of Don's book at that time, or at least not that he was the writer of the book. I think I actually did know about the book, but and I said, it might sound a little bit weird, but it's really important to me that this building has the ability to empower kids. It makes them feel enthusiastic and makes them want to learn and makes them actually engage to a higher level. And it's really important that it feels welcoming from the outside, that most academies, if those of you who know them, I mean, CVA in Maine, it's right on the main entrance into Sugarloaf, the big ski resort there. And I mean, maybe 1 million people a year drive right by it, but nobody stops there. It's like almost like they're blind to it, and it's just not, it doesn't look like the place you should stop and check out. And while that's normal there because it's an academy and there wouldn't be anything for most people to do there, in this case we felt really strongly that this has to be a community resource. It has to be sort of accretive to the community and building relationships between the community, the students, and vice versa, and anyone who participates in skiing at Granby. So I said, Don, I know it's going to sound weird, but there's bioarchitecture and biogeometry, which I didn't know his level at that time, and he literally, his eyes got all big, and I thought I was like either about to get kicked out and he jumped up, and he's faster than he looks. He ran across the room, like I'm not kidding, he ran and grabbed this book and brought it over and was like, I wrote the book. And I was like, all right, that makes this whole conversation a lot easier. So I guess I don't have to continue, and from that point forward, I think that was really critical as a starting point for the conversation, because there's lots of different buildings and there's lots of different places you could theoretically teach a kid. But when you're starting from raw ground and you want to do it right, you want to do it as best you possibly can, you need someone like Don, and he's probably one of a couple people in the country maybe, if not the world, who has this type of understanding and the ability to bring what we're all talking about into a building and actually make it real. And I can speak to it personally. I've been in buildings that are designed this way. It's a completely different thing than being in a building that's not designed this way, in every aspect, from your energy, your mood, your emotions, your sleep, your rest, recovery, everything. So just wanted to share that little anecdote. It was pretty funny and really exciting. And also, I think Andy alluded to it a little bit, we've dealt with this, I think, possibly because of our motivation and being so committed to it and enthusiastic about it. But a lot of really great things have just kind of popped out of nowhere and converged to allow this to become possible, including the site here at Granby. So Don was certainly a critical part of that, and was really, really cool to have that all just kind of come out of thin air.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, my convergence again was at the Granby Ace True Value, or the hardware store, right, on the adaptive piece. BODE referred, by the way, to raw ground. I mean, this great facility that Don and his team are developing, and we have these concepts, and BODE's excitement was just at that time is really hard to avoid, kind of the passion that was driving. But I have to take note of the raw ground, and as the folks here in Granby know, Granby Ranch has a bit of a storied history from an ownership and capital investment perspective, is maybe a good way to put it. But with that, the new ownership group that has come in here in late April, early May, they have enabled the raw ground upon which we will take this on, and we've just got to take note of that. In the commercial real estate realm and resorts and you name it, the land that they're making available to us at no cost is what would be called by commercial realtors AAA space. I mean, it's literally at the base of a mountain, and it doesn't matter if it's Whistler Blackcomb, Vail, Aspen, House and Hill, or Granby Ranch. It doesn't matter. It's precious land. And it speaks to their motivations, their ethos, and what they see as important to be able to dedicate this land to this effort, this cause, and this initiative. To be blunt, there'd be a lot of other ways to, frankly, monetize that land. They've chose a different path, and for that we are, very, very grateful. Really important to take note of that. The next item, next gentleman I'd like to introduce is to BODE's left, and that is Sam Fairchild. Remarkable gentleman, and has a great history background, been a friends and associated with BODE for a great number of years. most recently was working with a ski company. Prior to that, I believe I have that correct,
Yep.
right, was working with the Christopher Reeves Foundation. And I'll let him speak to this in a little bit more detail. But I mentioned, you know, the fourth discipline, and this is adaptive sports. We stand on the shoulders of giants with that effort, and that the first element of that is the National Center down in Winter Park. I can tell you, in knowing Groswald and Gary DeFrange and being very familiar with that program, it is clearly the platinum standard in all of North America, if not globally, for helping people, regardless of the circumstance, move on to snow in any form, sit skis to outriggers and everything in between. It's a remarkable program and just outstanding. So you have National Center. We also have Roy Tuscany as a strategic advisor, who is the founder and CEO of High Fives Foundation. It's a remarkable organization for which I serve on their board of directors that helps large, big mountain athletes or mountain athletes recovery when life-altering injuries comes to their world, and also veterans. In fact, we hosted a great veteran program here called Military to the Mountains, coming back in late March, early April of 2022. Additionally, his fiancée, Elena Nichols, is also a strategic consultant in this space. She's a remarkable lady, beautiful, wonderful mom, and she is a gold medalist in the summer and the winter Olympics. And so we have this incredible set of resources, really, to refer to source and to make this be something very special and work with Don. But also, as a founder, we have a gentleman who, to BODE's left, Sam Fairchild, has extensive background and experience working the Christopher Reeves Foundation and more. A lot of personal passion, also professional experience at hand. And Sam, glad to have you as part of the team as one of the founders.
Thanks, Andy. And it's great to be here. And similar to how Don and Andy and have explained, when I got the call from Andy and BODE and talking about this academy and hearing about it before and knowing about the passion behind it, I was 100% in right away. And the reasons for that, BODE and I have had the opportunity to work on a nonprofit, Turtle Ridge Foundation, together. I serve on the board. BODE founded it, and the goal there was provide youth sports and adaptive sports opportunities. So the academy and what we're doing here really encompasses a lot of that. It's really focused because we are resetting the standard. We are of what academies do, and being able to use these different resources through BODE, through Andy's expertise, with Don on the architecture side. We're able to have this focus of universal access. So yes, that encompasses adaptive sports, but that also encompasses people from different backgrounds through scholarship. So that focus at the BODE Miller Ski Academy Foundation really will be moving forward, of making sure that individuals like BODE had the opportunity to attend Carrabassett Valley have that same opportunity regardless of their backgrounds, and being able to come here and really get a pristine education and all of that. One of the fun parts of this program that I've enjoyed was having Elena Nichols, which, Andy, you've spoken to her background. She's in fact the Paralympic medalist in both winter and summer sports, which is the first individual, to my knowledge, to medal in both winter and summer, which is quite incredible. But on top of that, she has served as Women's Sports Foundation, making sure that women are seen in sports and represented more as well. So having her expertise on that side of things, as well as Roy Tuscany, founder and CEO of the High Fives Foundation, having him, Elena, and talking with Don and Justin Bell from RUGGLES MABE of how do we approach this, since we do have the opportunity of ground up. How do we approach this where it's accessible to all? So that goes from the corridor that Don outlined as well, that's ski in, ski out, but just from all aspects, from exterior to interior, we've had the opportunity to have them involved from the start, which I believe is unique. Usually you see buildings, from my experience at the Reeve Foundation, you see buildings and then we go, okay, now how do we make it accessible? But for this, we're able to involve individuals from the start with architecture. And in terms of programming, the National Sports Center for the Disabled being right over at Winter Park, it became a no-brainer that we should engage with them, and we will use their resources, and we're in discussions for the programming to make sure that they get the elite programming that they need for adaptive athletes as well. So all of those stages, all of the aspects that we've begun conversations with, had stuff involved with the architecture. It's just been exciting to have that for the foundation, and with the goal of making it accessible to individuals with disabilities, as well as scholarship opportunities for people who may not necessarily attend the academy.
Sam, thank you.
Of course.
That's great. Again, thank you for joining the team. So in a moment, for those who are participating by Zoom, we'll entertain questions that are sent along to the team managing the technical aspects of this. We'll certainly be glad to take those in a moment. And certainly we have members of the press here, so certainly entertain any additional questions you all have. One of the primary questions that might be on your mind is timing, and where do we go from here? Pretty good assumption. So in many ways, it kind of took us 4 years to get here, but the work actually just begins. And the work begins in the form of a capital campaign. The BODE Miller Ski Academy Foundation is a not-for-profit organization that we stood up here in Colorado. And within that, we have what we're approximating is a $25 million capital raise that will initiate from today forward. We had in this concept of describing the academy to everybody here today, and also online, if you will. And it was really not a kickoff necessarily, but let's get this out there, have folks know, put a stake in the ground, if you will, and advance from here on that capital campaign. That actually forms up the when. When are we going to do this? And really, of course, that somewhat relates to the ability to raise the capital to which I just referred. We think it's reasonable to consider bracketing this, for lack of a better phrase, at maybe as soon as 3 years. We welcome our first students, more likely than not 4 years. And if we're, probably not doing all that great of a job, probably 5 years. So it's in that zone, right? 3, 4, 5 years. When you consider a 2-year build period, on the optimistic side of things, it really suggests that BODE and I are raising that capital over the next year. And by the way, the $25 million originates from approximating build costs, maybe less FF&E and the like, at 58,000 square feet. What that looks like in 2 or 3 years from now in terms of build costs, I'd love to hear from the audience what you all think it's going to be. We think those numbers are notionally accurate at this stage of the game. So that's what happens from here, and that's the approximate timing. But we felt it important to get this word out, that it helps us tell the story. It enables us to initiate this campaign. Certainly work with great community members and leaders from Granby, the homeowners in the area, to understand what we're doing. Maybe ask for them to support, participate. There might be kids, there might be grandkids that are eyeing to come to school here, and maybe in 25, 26 as a freshman here in the audience. But it's important to get that word out there, and that's the timing. So I know before I conclude and wrap things up, I'm going to ask my fellow panel members here for any last comments. But before I do that, questions from anybody in the audience, press, Amy, Jeff, anything you haven't gotten out of us already? Sorry?
What's the training space going to be like for Alpine?
On Hill?
Yeah.
So Jeff Mintz from Ski Racing Media, chief editor, referring to what's the training space going to be, what's going to look like. If you go to BODEMillerSkiAcademy.com, we've actually not posted this, but we'll actually put this on the site. What we've developed and what we've invested in over the course of the summer and fall have been basically 3 slalom runs, 2 of which we're quite certain can be homologated, which is race speak for being a kind of designated and official race venue by the International Ski Federation, FIS. It's a French acronym, hence FIS. And also homologated bump run, skiers right of those 2 slalom lanes. There will be a 3rd slalom lane. Whether or not we have that homologated is to be determined. We'll also have 2 giant slalom trails, runs up there. They'll probably just be shy of actually being, of us being able to get them homologated in terms of vertical, but we will definitely be able to stage major events there. It's certainly capable of, for instance, staging, subject to some review, nationals, Alpine Nationals, at least the tech side of Alpine Nationals. The investment currently has been in the substructure infrastructure of pipe, pumps, and guns, snow guns. This upcoming summer, we've committed to putting a surface lift in place to serve the slalom runs, as well as lights. so we can do what young racers need to do, and that's lots of laps and time under those lights. I'm going to come back to that in a moment as an important point. But Jeff, did I answer your question in BODE?
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any goals for like early season training and seal making?
Yeah, thank you. That was a little bit of a hanging curveball, Jeff. Thank you. So we this fall, if you weren't aware, was a particularly warm fall in Colorado. We actually had designs, we actually had science and engineering to lead us to believe we could be training on the slalom venues with the U.S. Tech team, which included Forrest Carey, a coach of his, as soon as mid-December. Mother Nature did not work with us on that. Wet bulb temperature, which is a function of ambient temperature and humidity, was not our pal. She finally came back in line, and we have this great venue being built for World Pro Ski Tour. In the future, even when we could get anywhere near normal, anywhere close to better temps, we do think we can be open for race training, competitive training, at least on the slalom tracks, by mid-November. Call it November 10, November 15. And so that's our target. And for national level teams, international teams, Copper Mountain does such a great job in the investments they've made on those venues. We think we could be an alternative, because as you know, Jeff, those lanes have become precious. They're hard to come by for other national teams, international teams to train there. So that's where we're headed on that. But I want to highlight something critical. And on the GranbyRanch.com site, you'll see a video we just recently put out. And this is actually for you. We have big shots here to my left. We have folks like Ankeny and others racing tomorrow. Our investments are certainly yielding us a great benefit of being able to bring this announcement to you, have the World Pro Ski Tour here. But to be frank, be forthright, honest, this is an investment and a focus as much on the young ski racers that are U10s, U12s, U14s, that might have the goal of competing in the 2038 Winter Olympics. BODE had that opportunity by the academy. He also had the venue. My son had that opportunity at Howelson Hill. And so we see this as a venue where this is built as much for the U10s that are alpine racers and competitive skiers on bumps and more, as much as it is for, the high-level national teams. So thanks for bringing that up. How'd I do?
Yeah,
Is that good? Okay.
A couple things. We got a couple good questions. But also, I wanted to touch back on one that I kind of glossed over when touching on Don's work and knowledge is, we all kind of are aware of mental health as a sort of emerging catastrophe for not just our country, but really kind of around the world. And while the architectural piece is our attempt at starting the beginnings of that, we also feel like the inclusivity and the community sort of building aspect of the academy, having a lot of interaction and kind of open doors where parts of the food commissary will be open to the public at times when the athletes, the students aren't in there, and kind of having it be this free-flowing thing. That was also something that Don and I had talked about, and I just felt like it was important to know. I mean, one of the questions is about the impact of this on the owners of Granby Ranch, and are they going to be losing the runs on West Mountain? And, honestly, there will be times where they won't have access to the full West Mountain. There will be times when training lanes will be blocked off. But the interesting thing about what Andy just mentioned is lights and the ability to extend training hours using those lights. And overall, I would say they would have more access to times where they could ski, but that's a little bit of a guess. And overall, our intent is certainly to enhance the experience for all the owners at Granby, as well as guests who come in here, just by, like I said, the facility that's there, the decks, the viewing area, the food, but just kind of hopefully the building itself, the iconic feel, feeling like there's something really substantial, something that is backed by really pure, clean motivation and a lot of effort. So the other ones are about snowboarding. Is snowboarding going to be allowed? Do they allow snowboarding at Granby Ranch? I assume so. I saw some snowboarders out there. No, I'm just joking. I grew up snowboarding, and so it's in my brother. It's close to my heart. And of course, there will be snowboarding. We didn't mention it. That was a slip up. I'm sure there actually will likely be even more. The intent of this, when I first had the concept was honestly not as a ski academy at all. It was just as a learning institution, and it was more around building grit, character, perseverance, independence, self-reliance, all the kind of qualities that I got through various experiences growing up. But within that is also the elements of defining what somebody wants to do versus what they're good at, and allowing for people to decide. Andy and I, we didn't mention it, but we have a few different initiatives. I'll just throw a little bone out there to Alpine X, a fantastic group of businessmen who, if you guys know Great Wolf Lodge, they were the founders of that massive water park success. We're starting Alpine X, and it's an indoor ski facility. They'll roll them out across the country in more metropolitan areas where a lot of the people there don't have access to winter sports really at all. Logistically, also financially, those kind of diverse cultural areas where it's just not in their playbook. They're either football, basketball, baseball, and so to bring something like this to those areas theoretically expands your platform of kids who maybe would be the best ski racer in the world, but they'd never even thought about skiing or had an opportunity to do it, and the cost is way too much. And in that case, Alpine X bringing the cost way down, so you can do it for a hundredth of the cost of taking a normal ski trip. And that sort of plays right into the academy. Is hopefully we'll get kids who will come because they want the great education, and because we make it accessible through our sort of very creative programming, which Andy didn't really touch on, but we're essentially inverting a lot of what the expenses of an academy are, so that we have a much lower run rate and we can just pass on much more of the tuition. We'll be almost at the same price as your typical academies for a full paying student, but because we don't spend as much, we can roll much more of that money back to to scholarships. So we'll be able to scholarship a higher percentage of students based on our natural run rate. But I felt like that was important to bring those two pieces together, was that you can see obviously the motivation to this, why it was 20 years old. It's a really long, big story that kind of encompasses a lot of different things. It was the reason I started my foundation, was around our close friend who was paralyzed, and I witnessed how challenging that was. So started that and worked with tons of adaptive athletes, and then also benefited from the academy that I went to, and saw the sort of lack of evolution of the academies, and then combine all that together, and here we are 20 years later, and off we go. So I do think that we're at the starting point, and I appreciate you guys sort of spreading the word. I think it's important that people have this type of understanding where you're hearing it from us, so that you can speak to it directly. It's not something you read in a newspaper. It's because it's a big challenge, and we don't have a ton of spare time, but so you can see that we're committed to it and going to see it through. But it's going to take a lot of people helping out and contributing.
BODE, thanks. I want to go back to that first question here before we take this one on, and that is the West Mountains, and I can't remember the exact, I think it was something to the effect of, will our favorite runs be impacted? And the answer is they absolutely will be, really in a very favorable fashion. Right. Because for those of you who are familiar with West Mountain here at Granby Ranch, it's had virtually little to no snowmaking on it, and so it's relied entirely on natural snow. So in researching this, I have good reason to believe it's more typically opened up Jan 10, January 15, January 20. The investment that has been discussed today that relates to ski racing very much brings great benefit to anybody who wants to ski West Mountain anywhere and everywhere where we have snowmaking. So the answer is no, it won't. It actually greatly enhance the experience. And then when it comes to ski races, I'll make a point here. So one of the ski resorts for which I was responsible was Whistler Blackcomb. Back in 2010, we hosted the Winter Olympics up there with the Vancouver Olympics. That was a decent gig for you, wasn't it? So with Whistler Blackcomb, we went out of our way for the 2 years leading in to hosting that event. Certainly, you might be saying, where is he going comparing Whistler Blackcomb to Granby Ranch, Colorado? And I would understand that question. The simple nature of it is we were staging that event, all events on the Dave Murray downhill. as it relates to Whistler Blackcomb, the ski experience, we ended up shutting down about 9.2% of the entire mountain to stage downhill, Super G, those training runs for those events, as well as GS and slalom. And we went overdrive to convince everybody that 91% of the mountain was open throughout the Winter Games, and we had great success with that. Frankly, it's an analog, but it's different here. Yeah, there might be 4 to 6 days because of competitions that if your favorite run is one of the homologated slalom runs on the face of West Mountain, will be shut down for a competition. But that will be 4 days out of 140 or 6 days out of 140. And my guess is your favorite run probably isn't that slalom run that we're going to be running that competition on. So I just want to make sure to address that. But it's critical to understand that the investments we've made on the snowmaking are not just on West Mountain. They're across the entire mountain. We're the most technologically advanced snowmaking system that exists from our friends at Techno Alpine. We've improved the infrastructure of the snowmaking pipes underneath. And yeah, some of this, and a lot of it was geared towards the race competition venue development, but it is patently untrue to suggest that it's going to shut down, get in the way of folks enjoying the rest of all of West Mountain. It'll be open earlier, with better snow surface and better conditions. So, on one hand, no, it's not going to impact. On the other hand, yes, it is. But it's going to be putting a smile on virtually everybody's face. I had to over-answer that question because it needed to be over-answered, because I know it's a concern to those maybe in the homeowners of this community. Thanks. Okay, this is any chance of adding terrain, upgrading, or adding lifts that are open to the public? Yes. We being the management company and ownership have, we're just at the incipient stages of the concept master plan process, working with the venerated SE group out of Salt Lake City, Utah. In fact, they worked with us and BODE on developing all aspects of the grading plans for these runs in the entire mountain. So the answer to that question is yes, but we're in the very early stages of the concept master plan, and to get this done right in planning, you have to really measure twice, measure 3 times, and cut once. And so we're just really at that long-term envisioning process with really, I think, as RUGGLES MABE is to this architecture, SE Group is to master planning. They've done the best mountains, I would argue, in the world, in China, Europe, here in North America. And the answer to the question is yes, but I can't tell you how and when and where exactly that's going to come about. What else is there, Bodie?
That's all good.
Is that?
We're all good for all these.
Got it.
Yep.
All right. So back to our audience, members of the audience. Questions? You can try and stump us. Amy, Jeff? Oh, yes, ma'am?
How are you going to use it, like, through the summer?
Well, that is a great question. How are we going to use it? No, so the West Mountain? So,
Like, out in the school?
The academy.
yeah. So the facility in the mountain, I'm going to let Bodie answer the building and the facility. It's going to be designed, it is being designed as multi-use. Primary focus, you got to get this thing done right first, and that's everything we've talked about today. And beyond that, it'll be flex space. Don and I are anxious to welcome Bonnie Raitt and Yo-Yo Ma for a Christmas concert in 2025. And we'll do that on the 4th floor of this building. I think that got your attention when I mentioned that, right? And so, along those lines and multi-use. I would say quickly, we are looking at in the West Mountain area, developing other features, amenities, and programs on the hill itself. But more on that in the coming months.
Yeah, I think that was a really critical part of the design process, but also of the economic modeling for it, is that you can generate significant revenue for the foundation that then goes back to scholarshiping through summer programs, hosting events, corporate stuff, camps, summer training camps, and the like. And it's a great spot to do it, but what you really need is the facility. It needs to be exceptionally well designed to make that appealing and make it a destination that people can justify spending money to go to. So that was a big part of this, and it's a big part of why it's such a complete building. It really is it's going to be a complete building. You won't really need anything else, even though it's going to be connected to everything else here at Granby. The concept is that you can go there for your 100-person corporate retreat, and people can go on crazy cool hikes and cruise all over the mountain and have access to this incredible wellness facility that is, in this case, will probably be second to none in the country. Elite level universities and some, hospital type situations have elements of it, but very few, or if any, have the entire thing together. And I think, again, a lot of that's based on, physiological combined with psychological aspects of development and of life and recovery and all these things. But when you pair it all together with the environment, we think it's going to be really appealing. And that's all based around obviously utilizing an amazing structure, but also generating revenue that then can be passed on to scholarshiping and programming.
Excellent question. We'll start to wind it down and wrap up. Any other questions? We're good to go? Well, somewhat finishing where we started, thank you. And for those who are participating online, thank you very much for joining us. Would also ask that you go to, John, what's the URL so folks can watch the race tomorrow live? World Pro Ski Tour?
Qualifications will be on skiracing.com.
There you go.
And then 16 through the finals will be on Flow Live. And then CBS show next weekend. And then the docu-series shows will start running on Outside TV and NBC Regional Sportsnet in a couple of weeks.
And I seriously doubt anybody at home heard that, but I'm going to do my best to replicate that. So you can watch the World Pro Ski Tour tomorrow live via skiracing.com, correct? And then, is that correct?
You got finals on
Finals.
Flow Sports.
Yeah. Flow Sports.
Starting round of 16 through
Yep.
the finals.
And then on CBS, folks could go to CBS or to skiracing.com and get all of the times broadcast, right? But please tune in, watch the World Pro Ski Tour from Granby Ranch, Colorado. We're honored again to have this event. And would also ask that you all go to bodemillerskiacademy.org. There's more information there. Please sign up for our newsletter and updates and information. We're kind of, I'll do my best to use a ski racing metaphor. We're really just pushing out of the gate and just starting to skate ski down to that first gate, or from the start, pushing and skiing down to the first gate. So you sign up, learn more, and we'll certainly do our best to advise you. And but again, thanks. Don, any other closing
I'm
comments,
good.
thoughts?
Thank you.
Sam?
All set. Thank you.
Bodie, you're going to take us home.
All right. I think I've done the most talking, so I win. Yes. I thank you guys. We're very excited. It's been a long day, so my enthusiasm maybe doesn't come through in my voice, but this is a really big thing, and I hope we can build some excitement around it. So thank you guys for hearing us out, and look forward to breaking ground.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.